we're going to go over everything that I love about the ATG Split Squat and why I believe it's going to work so well for you as a hockey player. I'm not going to be on the ice with this. I'm just going to walk you through a whole bunch of steps to improving this ability for yourself and what the standards I believe you need to reach. I'm going to start with the translation into hockey and where this exactly fits in. But to preface, I don't do anything that's hockey specific or hockey exclusive, whatever you want to call it. I don't do anything that is a mimicking of the sport in any kind of sport context. I improve your ability so that when you go to play your sport, it's a lot easier to do so. In this case, my sport is hockey. For some other people, it's basketball. For some other people, it's football. For some other people, it's track. And for Gen Pop, it's being able to live with better posture and not having any aches and pains in certain areas. So that's why an exercise like this works for everyone. And on top of that, there's the regressions that go with the exercise itself, but I'll get into that a little bit later on. Now, with hockey specifically, this is going to train your knee ability. This is going to train your hip flexor length. This is going to train your adductor length as well. So it does a whole bunch of things outside of just strengthen the knee. Also, you get an ankle stretch, say if you keep the heel down. But if you lift the heel, you're also getting stimulus to the foot. You have so many great things. Even gets low back. Even gets a little bit of low back stimulus. Say if you're stuck right here, you got to stretch things out a little bit. That is where everything comes in. Now, if you wanted a hockey-specific translation, which I don't like that term, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Even though you don't get into this position with the front knee, and even though you don't get into this position with the back leg, theoretically, you are still training the length of the hip flexors, the length of the adductors, the groin, also the length of the front knee. That way, when you do get into a stride position like this, say if we go to it from a side angle right here, you have length, length, length. That way, shorter positions like this are easier to get into. And that's the basic idea behind this exercise, is getting strength in a much deeper range, which potentiates up and down the chain. You want no weak links, which is the foundational idea behind training a much deeper range than you normally would. So, yes, does it look like a stride from a side angle? Say we went into a skating stride like this, pushing off, right? You look at it from the side. Now you get into your ATG split squat. Oh, that kind of mimics the longer range of a skating stride. That's the theory behind that. I have seen it to work very well in myself, all the players that I coach and program this for. Now I'm going to talk about regressions, many ways to work with this. So, easiest way for the front knee will be raising and lowering the elevation. So now this is easier. You go lower, a little bit harder, a little bit harder until you get to flat ground. That is just the starting point. Now you can add a little bit of weight to it. You can also elevate the back leg to get even more of a hip flexor stretch there. There's different standards for both. I like the mobility standard with this, keeping the back knee off the ground, back leg completely straight. Also for strength, adding roughly 50% of your body weight in total weight would be a basic standard to reach for 5 reps on each side with standard form. So I have 3 tiers of standards: basic, freak, and elite, that are inside the Hockey Accent Train 2.0 standards, also a part of ATG. Basic, flat ground, half body weight. Elite, flat ground, 75% body weight. Freak, flat ground, 100% of body weight. Where the weight goes, whether you're holding barbell back, front, or dumbbells on the side, the weight's going to be the same throughout the 3 standards as far as weight specifically. You are going to get different stimulus with both, so front squat is going to engage more of your back. Bar and back is going to be a little bit less so. Dumbbells, I find, get the hip flexors and hips a little bit more. If you do heel elevated, like with a squat wedge, ATG buddy, or an Olympic weightlifting shoe, also the same thing. Just a quick side note, heel elevated gets more of the quad, heel down gets more of the hip. Also, heel down gets more of the ankle. Heel up gets less of the ankle. Choose where you want to go with that. That brings up another topic. That's another reason I only like to do one exercise and then add tons of variations to that one exercise. Makes things a lot more simple. But that's a topic for another day. So that's the basics of the weight standards there. Now for mobility, would also be flat ground. So mobility standards, this would be basic. Elite standards, you would go about 2 inches. You go 2 inches, back foot elevated, knee not touching the ground, back leg perfectly straight. I'm not quite there yet, but I'm working on it. Front hamstring covering the calf, chest stays up, and then you add about 25% of your body weight total. Now for freak, with mobility, you do about 4 to 6 inches, then add half your body weight. So it would look very similar to this right here. You see how deep I'm getting with this back hip flexor. I don't have the ankle dorsiflexion on the front foot quite yet, but we're working on it. So that's pretty much the basics of it. Again, I do other stuff on top of the ATG Split Squat. I treat it as an accessory because my bigger lifts are the front squat, back squat, even RDL, but ATG deadlift, so that'd be like snatch grip deadlift on a podium, or any type of deadlift on an elevated surface. Those are my bigger, more complex lifts. Yes, the ATG Split Squat is technically an accessory exercise. You don't really see people breaking world records with it. You don't really need to. We're targeting short range, whether that's with reverse step up or pinned squats at the top quarter, or even 90 degrees on a standard squat. You get mid-range, which is 90 degrees between there and ass to grass, right about there. That'd be mid-range. And then you get long range with the knee extension, which would be the split squat, or even better yet with sissy squats or even reverse Nordics. You need to fit all of that into your equation. You need to be strong on all of that. You also need to be strong on the opposite side with the hamstrings, things like that. But that goes into a conversation about structural balance. This is just about the HU split squat. A lot of people think it's best for the knees, and it is. I didn't use it for my knees. My knees were okay. They weren't bends at the time, didn't have the same strength as that, but thanks to hockey, there was massive development there. I mean, I got lucky with it. I know hockey players, some hockey players can get knee injuries very easily. I wasn't one of those, thankfully. So I actually used this to repair my hips, and it has done wonders for that, just because of how much stretch you get on that back hip flexor. And that was an element also. We're talking about everything that I do. I'm trying to pack as much nuance as possible into this. On top of everything else that I did, this was a game changer. I'll talk about it briefly, how I fixed my hips. I only did split squats once a week with it. I did other short range, like, pumping the area, getting blood flow, getting a healing stimulus. That was what worked for me to fix things up. But what was great about the short range stuff is that it allowed me to get stronger with those movements, and therefore when I wanted to get into a longer position like the split squat, that was a lot easier. One other variation I forgot to talk about before we go is the ATG lunge. I'm probably just going to put some, if you want to talk about striding, well, you just turn this into a lunge, and well, that also looks exactly like a skating stride, if you want to go into that. But there's good variations with that you can do. I've done them all. I've done like tons of variations. Oh, even if you're just starting out with the split squat, doesn't have to be elevated. Here you can hold a cable, opposite arm, opposite leg. That helps to open up the hip. I should actually do that a lot more for my hips to continue opening things up. I'm going to start doing that every morning, because that's a terrific stretch. And that's not a variation to low very heavy. That's just to get things warmed up and get more mobility. I'm in a stage personally where I'm working on mobility more than strength, so I'm going to be doing that a little bit more for the next little while. Anyway, before I keep rambling on, that's everything I know about the ATG split squat, what it helped me out, different variations that you can get started with, and how it works for hockey. And it's one of the staple points. It's one of 2 exercises that I program structural balance around all my players, including myself. And it's done really great things for everyone. The next video will actually be about that other exercise that I calculate structural balance off of. So we'll see you then before it gets too dark outside.